many of you are completely comfortable with calling yourself a leader? That question is asked all across the country, and no matter what, a huge portion of the audiences won't raise their hand. And I've come to realize that we have made leadership into something bigger than us, something beyond us. We've made it about changing the world, and we treat it as something that one day we might deserve. But to assign that title to ourselves now means a level of arrogance and cockiness that we're not comfortable with. I worry sometimes that we spend so much time celebrating amazing things that hardly anyone can do that we've convinced ourselves those are the only things worth celebrating. We start to devalue the things we can do every day. We take moments where we truly are a leader and we don't take credit for it, and we don't let ourselves feel good about it. With my short time today, I want to tell you a story from Drew Dudley that has probably been the most responsible for the redefinition of leadership in my life. Drew went to a small school called Mount Allison University in Sackville, New Brunswick, and on his last day there, a girl came up to him and said, "I remember the first day I met you," and she proceeded to tell him about the day. She says, "I was at the hotel the day before the first day of university, and I was so scared. I convinced myself that I couldn't do it, that I should quit and go home. My mom and dad were very understanding, and they said, 'Let's go tomorrow, try it out. If you don't like it at any point, you just tell us and we'll take you home. We love you no matter what.'" So the next day, they're at registration, standing in line, and I just feel out of place. I decided I can't do it and I need to go. As soon as I make that decision, a sense of peace washed over me, a calm sense washed over me. And I turned to tell my parents that I was ready to go. And at that moment, you walked out of the student union and you were wearing the most ridiculous hat. You started coming up to everyone in line, you were passing out lollipops from a bucket and talking about a charity you were supporting. And when you got to me, you just stopped and you stared, and it was creepy. You looked at the guy next to me and you fished a lollipop out of your bucket and you handed it to him and said, "You need to give a lollipop to this beautiful woman next to you." He was so embarrassed. He turned beet red. He wouldn't even look at me. He just kind of held the lollipop out like this. And I felt so bad for the dude that I took it. And as soon as I did, you got the most severe look on your face. And you turned to my parents and you said, "Look, look, not even one day away from home and she's already taking candy from a stranger." At that moment, I knew that I was where I was supposed to be. And as everyone 20 feet around us was howling at the situation, I decided to stay. She started to walk away, and after a few feet she stopped. She turned, looked back at him, and said, "And you should know that 4 years later, I'm still dating that guy." A year and a half later, Drew says he received an invitation to their wedding. He concludes the recollection by saying that he had no memory of this moment. He had no recollection of this interaction and had no idea the impact that he had had on this woman's life. How many of you have had a lollipop moment? A moment where someone said or did something that made you feel better, that fundamentally made your life better? How many of you have told that person they did it? We let people who have made our lives better walk around without ever knowing it. Every single one of you has been the catalyst for a lollipop moment. You've made someone better by something you said or did. It's scary to think of ourselves as that powerful, frightening to think we can matter that much to other people. As long as we make some leadership something bigger than us, as long as we keep leadership beyond us and make it about changing the world, we give ourselves the excuse to not expect it every day from ourselves and from other people. Marianne Williamson once said, "Our greatest fear is not that we are inadequate. It is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light and not our darkness that we are afraid of." My call to action today is that we need to get over our fear of how extraordinarily powerful we can be in each other's lives. We need to get over it so we can move beyond it, and our little brothers and sisters and someday our children can watch and start to value the effect and impact we can have on each other's lives more than money and power and title and influence. We need to redefine leadership as being about lollipop moments. How many of them we create, how many of them we acknowledge, how many of them we pay forward, And how many of them we say thank you for? Because we've made leadership about changing the world, and there is no world. Only 6 billion understandings of it. If you change one person's understanding of it, understanding of what they're capable of how much people care about them, of how powerful an agent for change they can be in the world, you've changed the whole thing. And if we can understand leadership like that, I think if we can redefine leadership like that, then we can change everything.